Yeah, hi everybody, Dr. Jason W. Morrison, Theologist, New South Wales, Australia. We're going to get through Armageddon. We'll try and do it quick. It's not all that bad as you think. It's probably more good news than bad news. We're going to use the Watchtower Society stuff to do it. So let's go over here. What is Armageddon on jw.org? And they give an answer. I wonder if this
What
will...
is the Battle of
Armageddon?
The Bible's answer.
Now they're claiming that this is the Bible's answer. Okay, now I want you to follow with me. This is how you research. Okay?
The Battle of Armageddon refers to the final war between human governments and God.
Now, straight off the bat, they've got it wrong. It's not the final war between human governments and God. God doesn't have wars with human governments. It's the sheep nations and the goat nations warring to save Israel. Now, as I said before, God's watching it, and in the end, he comes down, Christ returns on the Mount of Olives, but that's to save Israel from the nations that are trying to destroy it. That's all it is. It's got nothing to do with God. Man can't beat God in a battle.
These governments and their supporters oppose God even now by refusing to submit to his rulership.
Now, he's saying that they refuse to submit to his rulership. Now, we have to get out of Matthew there for a minute and go to Romans, don't we? Romans chapter 13. Let's go and have a look. So they must be talking about themselves, mustn't they? Because it says this.
Chapter 13. Let every person be in subjection to the superior authorities, for there is no authority except by God.
Now, they won't subscribe. They won't go to national service, will they? So these people, these Jehovah Witness people, are straight off the bat contradicting what they just said. Let's go back a bit.
The Battle of Armageddon refers to the final war between human governments and God. These governments and their supporters oppose God even now by refusing to submit to his rulership.
Now, we just heard Romans 7, didn't we? Let's do it again.
To the superior authorities, for there is no authority except by God. The existing authorities stand placed in their relative positions by God.
So if you're in opposition to governments and they're not doing any harm, then apparently, according to the Watchtower, you're in opposition to God. So they're in opposition to God, aren't they? They're contradicting their own teaching. They're in opposition to God. Crazy.
Therefore, whoever opposes the authority has taken a stand against the arrangement of God. Those who have taken a stand against it will bring judgment against themselves.
So I want to do this again. I'll just go back a little bit.
These governments and their supporters oppose God even now by refusing to submit to his rulership.
So if you refuse to submit to God's rulership, which is it's actually the governments themselves, because they're the ones that are keeping things in order. Let's have a look.
Let every person be in subjection to the superior authorities.
Hang on.
For there is no authority except by God.
So all the governmental authorities on this earth, right, wrong, good or evil, are there because of God. None are there except by God, right?
The existing authorities stand placed in their relative positions by God. Therefore, whoever opposes the authority has taken a stand against the arrangement of God.
Now, the arrangement of God, I just want to do this again. It's so...
war between human governments and God. These governments and their supporters oppose God even now by refusing to submit to his rulership.
Well, I've got news for you. The Australian government, we're a Christian country. The United States is a Christian country. The United Kingdom is a Christian country. What is this organisation talking about? Goodness gracious.
Those who have taken a stand against it will bring judgment against themselves.
Like the 19,300 poor buggers in South Korea that decided they didn't want to go to national service because the Watchtower made up some rule that you shouldn't fight for your country, the cowards.
For those rulers are an object of fear, not to the good deed, but to the bad.
Right, so basically, if you're doing good, there's nothing to fear. If you're doing bad, then the government will put you in jail. That's why these pedophiles in the Watchtower Society aren't getting done by the justice systems, because they're not reporting them. But they shouldn't have anything to fear, should they? If you haven't done bad, then what's there to fear? If you have done bad, then you have got something to fear.
Want to be free of fear of the authority? Keep doing good, and you will have praise from it.
Right, so if you don't want to get in trouble, do good. If you do want to get in trouble, do bad. On with Armageddon over here.
The Battle of Armageddon will bring human rulership to an end.
Well, it won't bring you... Why will the Battle of Armageddon bring human rulership to an end? Aren't the saints coming back to rule with Christ in his millennium? There's so many contradictions in this organisation. Goodness me. Let's carry on.
The word Armageddon occurs only once in the Bible, at Revelation 16:16. Prophetically, Revelation shows that at the place that is called in Hebrew Armageddon, the kings of the entire inhabited earth will be gathered together to the war of the great day of God the Almighty. Revelation 16:14.
Now, Armageddon is something that happens in the second part, the second 3.5 years or thereabouts of the tribulation. The tribulation period and great tribulation period is a period of 7 years. The first half, which hot things up, the first 3.5 years hots things up. The second 3.5 years, all hell breaks loose. But it's not. It's not about it. This. The kings of the entire inhabited earth will be gathered together to war of the great day of God Almighty. It's not that. It's not that at all. Again, it's going to be sheep and goat nations, which we're going to see, that want to save Israel or destroy Israel. And in the end, it looks like Israel does almost get annihilated, and the Lord himself has to come down and save it.
Who will fight at Armageddon? Jesus Christ will lead a heavenly army to victory over God.
They've jumped the gun. Jesus doesn't hit the Mount of Olives until the end. Armageddon's in full swing. Israel starts to lose the battle and the sheep nations. Then the Lord comes back and annihilates the enemies of Israel. So what they're actually saying is, anybody that's an enemy of Israel is God's enemy.
Enemies. These enemies include those who oppose God's authority and who treat God with contempt.
Right, now these enemies are those who oppose God's authority. Let's do this again.
Chapter 13
of Romans.
Let every person be in subjection to the superior authorities, for there is no authority except by God. The existing authorities stand placed in their relative positions by God. Therefore, whoever opposes the authority has taken a stand against the arrangement of God. Those who have taken a stand against it will bring judgment against themselves. For those rulers are an object of fear, not to the good deed, but to the bad. Do you want to be free of fear of the authority? Keep doing good, and you will have praise from it.
So once again, the Watchtower Society's done a good job of contradicting the Bible.
Will Armageddon literally be fought in the Middle East? No. Rather than being restricted to one area, the Battle of Armageddon will encompass the whole earth.
Now, it will encompass the specific battle will be centered around the Middle East. What specific area, we're not sure. But the battle will be against the nation of Israel. What area of Israel? I think all of it. They're just going to come in at the borders and try and annihilate the place. Whether it be with soldiers or I'd say it'll be a missile attack. It's going to be huge. It's not going to be good. But you might say America's defending Israel, so Russia might not. They both might. We don't know who will and who won't. But just say America's defending Israel and Russia's not. Then you might get the case where Russia starts firing missiles at America because they were warned not to defend Israel. See, teamwork. Watch this. I'm opening a can of honey mustard for the missus. Oh, I hate it when you go to open it and you can't do it, and she has to do it herself. I've been lucky so far. So that's where the war might begin to spread out. If Russia starts firing missiles at America or something like that, or maybe even North Korea, that's where it could get complicated. But the central specific area that they're fighting for will be the land of Israel. And the ripple effect of that possibly will flow into other nations. But the battle's not against God. The battle's on the one hand to destroy Israel, and on the other hand to save Israel. You've got to realize that.
Armageddon, sometimes rendered Armageddon, Hebrew Armageddon, means mountain of Megiddo. Megiddo was once a city in the territory of ancient Israel. History tells of decisive battles that were fought in its vicinity, including some that are recorded in the Bible. However, Armageddon cannot refer to the literal area near ancient Megiddo. There is no large mountain there.
It can't specifically refer to that, and the scholars agree, but generally it can, because the battle's going to be spread out all over the land of Israel, because they're going to try and break its borders and take it, if not take over it, absolutely destroy it. And that's why, as it's just about to be destroyed, Jesus comes back and annihilates the people that are trying to destroy it.
And even the entire adjoining low plain of Jezreel could not contain all those who will fight against God. Instead, Armageddon...
Now, let's just say again, I don't think it's going to be a war that's going to be specifically numbers of people. I think it's going to be more of a missile-type style war.
Is the worldwide situation in which the nations assemble in their last stand against rule by God.
They're not going to be standing against the rule of God. They're all going to be thinking they're fighting in the name of their God. It's going to be to annihilate Israel or save it. In the end, Jesus has to come back and save it, but we'll get to that later.
God. What will conditions be like during the Battle of Armageddon? While we do not know how God will use his power, he will have at his disposal weapons such as those he has used in the past. Hail, earthquake, flooding downpour, fire and sulfur, lightning and disease.
Now they jump into some conclusions there. They could be natural crises that happen during Armageddon, but I don't think it's going to be like that. I think we're going to see a supernatural force that's going to specifically hit the nations that have affected Israel to the point where it will come to almost to its demise.
In confusion, at least some of God's enemies will kill each other, yet they will ultimately realize that it is God who is fighting against them.
They've got this all muddled up. What they're saying is this battle of Armageddon is man against God. How long do you think man would last fighting against God? It's all muddled up, see? It's all muddled up. And that's the fear-mongering propaganda that the Watchtower uses. Armageddon, and I'll say it again, is for the taking over and annihilation of the nation of Israel. The countries on the one hand that want to destroy it will be goat nations. The countries on the other hand that want to save it will be sheep nations. It is not a battle between man and God, or God and man.
Will Armageddon be the end of the world?
It's a battle for the nation of Israel to either annihilate it or save it.
It will not be the end of our planet, since the earth is mankind's eternal home. Rather than destroying humanity, Armageddon actually saves it, because a great crowd of God's servants will survive.
They've got this all muddled up, and I'm going to have to play this again, because it's so muddled up.
It will not be the end of our planet, since the earth is mankind's eternal home.
Well, the earth is not mankind's eternal home, because Revelation 21, which we're going to have to look at, now that's interesting, they haven't got the bit to read. They don't read Revelation 21. Where's that part where it reads it? Maybe I've got it wrong. Get a comment on that. Anyway, John says, "And I saw a new heaven and a new earth. The former heaven and the former earth had passed away, Now listen, Jehovah Witnesses, if you're on that earth, when it passes away, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? You're going to jump off? You've got to get this right. And I saw a new heaven and a new earth. The former heaven and the former earth had passed away. You know what? It was scorched. So what you're actually looking forward to is not a paradise. It's a barbecue. I don't know why don't you do your research? Why don't you just do your research like everybody else?
Rather than destroying humanity, Armageddon actually saves it, because a great crowd of God's servants will survive. Revelation 7, 9 and 14.
Well, they're saying rather than destroy humanity, Armageddon actually saves it because a great crowd of God's servants will survive. It's so blind-sided. It is so blind-sided, it is not funny. You know what? Armageddon's after the believers in Christ are taken out anyway. And Armageddon's about Israel. Crazy.
Besides referring to the earth, though, the word world in the Bible sometimes refers to wicked human society opposed to God. In this sense, Armageddon will bring the end of the world. Matthew 24:3, King James Version.
Right, well, let's look at Matthew 24:3. Well, it looks like they're happy to read Matthew 24.
Chapter 24. Now as Jesus was departing from the temple, his disciples approached to show him the buildings of the temple. In response, he said to them,
Do you not see all these things? Truly I say to you, by no means will a stone be left here upon a stone, and not be thrown down.
Now, the Temple of Israel was destroyed in AD 70. We know that. So he's specifically talking about the temple there.
While he was sitting on the Mount of Olives, the disciples approached him privately, saying,
Tell us, when will these things be? And what will be the sign of your presence and of the conclusion of the system of things?
In answer, Jesus said to them,
Look out that nobody misleads you.
Now listen, he said, look out that nobody misleads you. Now the verse we wanted was this. Tell us when will these things be and what will be the sign of your presence and the conclusion of the system of things. Well, he says, many will try to come on the basis of my name, saying I'm Christ, and will mislead many. I think that's what the Watchtower's done myself.
When will Armageddon take place?
When will Armageddon take place?
When discussing the Great Tribulation that culminates in the Battle of Armageddon, Jesus...
Now, they've actually got that right. The Great Tribulation does 100% culminate in the Battle of Armageddon. That is exactly right. The Great Tribulation does culminate in the Battle of Armageddon. They've got that bit right, but they've got the rest of it a bit muddled up.
Concerning that day and hour, nobody knows, neither the angels of the heavens nor the Son, but only the Father. Matthew 24, 21 and 36. Nevertheless, the Bible does show that Armageddon takes place during Jesus' invisible presence, which began in 1914.
And then they went and blew it, didn't they? Right at the end, all of that stuff they've said, they've just undermined with a massive, great big massive deception. And I've got to play that again.
The Bible does show that Armageddon takes place during Jesus' invisible presence, which began in 1914.
Now, Armageddon, nevertheless, the Bible shows that Armageddon takes place during Jesus' invisible presence, which began in 1914. I don't know anybody, even in the world, that believes that Jesus come back in 1914. That is the biggest load of rubbish, and it absolutely has nothing to do with Armageddon, because there'd be nothing left, would there? There'd be nothing left of anything. Israel should be destroyed by now. There should be been a great nuclear war. Jesus should have come back. No, they've got this all wrong. We're going to build on this in our next session. This is Dr. Jason W. Morrison, Theologist, New South Wales, Australia. Bye for now. Yeah, Dr. Jason Morrison, theologist again. I just want to say thank you for watching the videos, and I hope you got plenty of self-rediscovery and freedom out of it. If you watched it on YouTube, please share or like, maybe even comment. If you watched it on Facebook, like, comment, share. But most of all, get out and live. This isn't a rehearsal. You've got a one-off life. Don't let your loyalty and your faithfulness blind you to the life that you should be experiencing. Till the next video, thank you for watching, and bye for now.